Thank you so much for coming to Nuremberg. Maybe a short introduction. You've seen Popo in the first film, much younger Popo to some extent. Popo is obviously a filmmaker because that was the second film. You're a curator. You organize a film festival, the Queer Film Festival in Beijing. You're an activist. You're an actor. And you are everywhere, basically. I met Popo in 2019. We had the pleasure of being I had the pleasure of being in a jury with you at the Berlinale, the Teddy jury, and we're very happy that you're here. So you also put together these 3 films for us to present here in Nuremberg, and it's difficult to start because we see such a wide range of films and topics, but the impression that I had from the films, and that will be my first question, is while there is restrictions and there are difficulties in the exhibition of those films, probably also of them finding an audience, this is like a first layer, but beneath this layer there's a lot of solidarity and there's a lot of interconnectedness in the cultural sphere. And it's also something I took from your film, 2 outcasts that find each other in solidarity and swim away to a place where I don't know, solidarity and togetherness is how I imagine it, play a strong role. Can you say something about the conditions of existence for a queer cultural scene in China, or maybe it's also more exact to speak about Beijing, I don't know. How does the cultural sphere and the queer sphere interconnect in China?
Thank you, Andrea, for this question. Of course, it's a very difficult one because such a big country, and also like even though I also was everywhere in China, but it's so hard to cover everywhere. Basic background was that in 1997, China so-called decriminalized homosexuality. So being gay and lesbian is not considered as a criminal anymore. In 2001, it was removed from mental health disease. But transgender is still considered mentally disabled, and also some conversion therapy is still going on. So, but the biggest challenge is that China has very strict rules against the representation of LGBTQIA character on screen and media. So you are allowed to exist, but you're not allowed to speak out. This gives us Beijing Queer Film Festival such a big challenge when you want to showcase queer films. As you can see from the first film, that was our story doing this guerrilla game with the police. It's sometimes so difficult to explain to Europeans that I also go to other festivals. So fortunately we could show the film today, and sometimes they were like, so China has rules against the queer films. Yes, but your festival still exists. Yes, how? And I sometimes just symbolize it as we have many bad laws in China, but fortunately it's not a country ruled by law. So there is always some loopholes you can go through, film cinemas can't show queer films, but we always try to find like an alternative space, cafe, gallery, or university to do our festival. And recent years also, because our story only covered our history until 2011. So from then, actually from around 2016, we become annually, like we host every year, and also we have a stable cooperation with French Institute and Goethe Institute. And so the last few editions we hosted in person, and also was, I would say, a big success because I was back from Beijing for our this year's edition of the Beijing Queer Film Festival. And we got so much, as you said, solidarity and support from the community, because you can see that they crave for queer films. They crave to see lesbian love stories on the screen. They want to know about the struggle of the transgender character, and it's just overwhelming of the reaction from the community. That's why it makes me even feel more mad about why we just could not show them to the big audience, and so that we have to do it no matter what the restriction and the law is. Otherwise, the policy won't open up itself.
Now, I guess as you already said, this is one of the paradoxes of having a queer film festival in a country where homosexuality is not criminalized, but representation is very limited or restricted. Still, it's called Queer Film Festival, so it's quite obvious that these are films that are depicting, representing queer identities or queer lives. Can you tell us about the context that the festival took place this year? Because, as you said, what we see on the screen is history. It was more than 10 years ago. Is it still like cat and mouse, playing with the police and finding spaces where you can be, or has it been established in a way that it can exist, it can screen what it wants to screen and reach the audiences it wants to reach?
So honestly, we rebranded our festival for a few times. So as you can see in the film, it already had different names like 同性恋, which means homosexual, same-sex love in Chinese. 同 means same, and 性 is sex, and 恋 is love. And then we rebranded it as named it as Queer Film Festival. No, actually, the second edition was called 同志 Film Festival. So, actually, in December, I'm creating a film series in Berlin called Commerce, I Love You, because 同志 means comrade, but we use it to mischief the communists talking about comradeship is queer love. And then now recently, from 2015, we had rebranded as Love Queer Cinema Week, because Queer Film Festival itself is a very sensitive word politically in China, so we can only call it a Cinema Week, like 爱哭电影周. So it sounds like not a festival, it's just a week showing some films. So all those rebranding, some researchers just told us like, oh wow, your festival is so queer, you even change the name every a few years, and it's not even a queer strategy, just for safety, for the security. But maybe unconsciously we were so queer, like we could not even keep a name, and actually the authority made us to be so queer.
Which brings me to your own film, The Drum Tower, that you presented here. I mean, maybe I should say that Popo Fan is a very diverse filmmaker. You've made documentaries, fiction films, porn, and you are now in the development of your first feature-length fiction film. But the one you chose here to show to us here, The Drum Tower, it's I guess a very queer mix of elements. It's a fiction film, it has animation, it ends with Schubert, with the Schubert song, a lead at the end. And from what I understand, it was also quite progressive in being the first film that actually featured a trans actress in a trans role or in a leading role. Now you're based in Berlin, but this was obviously still shot in China.
Yeah.
How would you find your subject, or what would interest you, or where do you think, I don't know, is there something about the biggest needs of stories to be told? Is that a reason why you would pick certain subjects, and maybe also genre, documentary or fiction.
I have made documentaries for about from 2007 to 2016. So for about 10 years, I was making documentary, and I always actually I studied script writing in film school. So I always thought about fiction. For me, is more suit me more as a storyteller, but I didn't have a topic that I really want to make into a fictional film until I met the protagonist of the actress of the Drum Tower, Chao Xiaomi. She was in my one of my documentary called Papa Rainbow. So it talks about how Chinese parents accepting their children as LGBT, and in the film, we organized a theater play workshop, and she came there and acted as a trans kid who has conflict with her dad, and then during the workshop I felt, oh wow, I talked to her that, do you ever think about actor in a film? So you know what, I want to write a script for you. And at that time she really owned that vintage shop in Beijing. So I was wandering around in the area, oh, what kind of story I want to write. And then and she also told me about her story, like being the beginning scene of the Drum Tower was based on her real experience. Like she always had trouble when going to the toilet, because in China still toilets are very binary, and then combining those elements, the challenge of her as a trans woman, and also as the urban change in Beijing happening parallel-wise, because they had, I don't know if you get the sense about their Beijing government was kicking out migrants. So basically, the artists and migrants and freelancer are kicked out brutally in 2000. Yeah, around that time when I was shooting the film, 2018. 2017 I shot it. So and they blocked the hole on the wall. They kick out like those shops, and also some art galleries I closed. So I thought, okay, if I make a short film, it should not be only about gender, but also it was international of other issues. So that's how I wrote the script of the Drum Tower.
And maybe, like, for now, a final question for me, and I hope you have some questions as well, about the last film that we see, like Wave, Like Cloud. It's quite explicit. So here it's also, it's not stated, but you can see that these women are a couple, or at least having a sexual relationship, and it seems like a longer history wherever they come from. Why did you choose it, and can you tell us a little bit more about the filmmaker and the context of this film? Because this looks the most conventional, quote-unquote, film that is also kind of explicit, that I assume traveled the world as well. Tell us more about that film, please.
I can speak on behalf of as a curator why I select this film, because I want to definitely cover different type of film, different genre, like it's documentary, there is experimental, and I also want to choose one which is more narrative, and this one fitted, and also we need more lesbian and women representation, and this also tell a story of the struggle that a lesbian couple can face in China, and also like it was shot in South China, so the other two are both in Beijing, so at least a little bit diversity. Another reason is why the phenomenon of queer films has been, as I talked so much about the challenge, but we had the observation that this recent years queer feature films in China are very rare, like. After this year's the restriction plus like economic reason and recent years, every year we have like maybe one or even no queer films made in China and by Chinese, and but we saw that there is a phenomenon that many Chinese students who study abroad, they want to make queer short film, and so this is one of them. Like the director, just grade edit from New York University. It's an NYU grade Asian film. So they made this. So actually, the director is now back to Beijing, but the film was shot when the director was still studying in New York. So maybe it's also interesting to show like their type of filmmaking, and because he was educated so conventional way, like a very industry, and I don't know if he would make another queer film in the future. But for now, he like, yeah, I want to make this because of the actress is who played the older woman was a friend of mine, was my film school classmate, and she's actually quite well known in China, and but she doesn't care about the risk, and she's just said, I want to be a lesbian movie, I want to play a lesbian role, and this is important. And she also like previous years also come to our opening of the Queer Film Festival, and so those solidarity are also partially I see as support, no matter within the queer community or outside, just as the ally. So that's what I can say about last one.
Hello, my question would refer to the making of a film in China compared to in Germany, maybe. I suppose you are doing films also here, or maybe it's your plan to do it in the future. And actually there was one filmmaker during the first film who said that it's hard in China to make independent films, and it's even harder to make queer films. So I guess that it would be quite normal to make queer independent films. So the double hard way, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about funding, if there is any way of national structures from the state, if there's a way to get funding for a film project, or maybe not, or other ways of funding and support.
Oh, thank you. So I always told the story about but firstly, I'm also making films in Germany. I already made a few short films, and as Andrea said, I'm developing my feature, and I could make it a little comparison later. But firstly, making queer films, I always told friends one story that there is one lesbian filmmaker. She shot her film. She owned an online shop selling socks and underwear. Like one underwear maybe owning like 15 cents euro, and then her film shot very small budget, like 2,000 euro, and she has to sell like I'm very bad at this mathematics, like 1,000 pair of socks to shot her film. So this story just to tell you that most of the queer filmmakers are self-funded. For my documentaries before, I can only use myself as an example, like because we have some collaboration with different on-government organization, and at this time we still receive some funding from abroad. But now Chinese government also made it impossible, and then for the drum tower, I received a donation from a friend of mine. So they gave me, I think, like 2,000 euros, something like that, to shot a film. So we and making film is also become more and more expensive in China. Also, a few years ago, it's like, okay, we have food here. Come to record the sun for us. But even when I was shooting drum tower, like a friend agreed to do the sun recording in the beginning, but he has to go for another project because that project pays him real money. So those together make it That's why queer feature films are so rare in China. And so there is no state fund, and you will be already praying that the police doesn't shut you down, because if you want to shoot a film, you also need a license. If you want to shoot on the street, and so when we were shooting the Drum Tower, obviously we don't have a license. We have to. We were so paranoid about if once we saw that someone looked like a spy, we just close up camera and packaging camera and hide it. So the few scenes on the street are all shot secretly. And compared with shooting, making films in Germany, and also can compare with a little bit like because as I said, being queer in China is like you are allowed to be there, but you're not seen on media. I feel at least a few years ago in Germany, being Asian or being people of color was also like that. It's okay, you can be here, but we don't see you on TV. Of course, recent years we found a change because there are so many filmmakers are working so hard, and curators. We also get many allies who support us. So, but still, there is a lot to improve in this country, and we hope the diversity really comes to the film industry and TV.
Yes, you told us that up to 1997, it was a criminal act to be homosexual. Did many people have to go to the prison or were tortured? Or that's the first question. Second one, in 2001, it was possible to be a homosexual, but not existing, but it was still considered like being a sickness.
Thank you for the question. Before 1997, there were many cases, like, because if you show your queerness at home, usually they don't bother you, but there are like parks. Many gay men will go there for cruising, like people meet each other for sex, and so there was many cases about the police go to the parks to crush to find two people having sex in the toilet or making out, and so this there was also filmed the first gay film in China called East Palace, West Palace. Exactly told a story like that. So that time it was I don't know exactly like. Of course, it's referring to another criminal in China is to have sex in the public. So those behavior touched both of the taboo, and but like many of them, they don't have place to meet. They can only meet in the park at that time. So this was I don't know if were there really people in prison because of some homosexuality. But during Cultural Revolution, there was a famous photo that because the law itself is called the hooligan law. It's a law against a hooligan, and it's adopted from Soviet Union, and so this was also punishing. Like many other things, I think, if you think that you are a hooligan. And this was, so during the Cultural Revolution, there was a famous kind photo from that period of time. There was one person was just written 流氓罪, which is hooligan, and then he was, killed. It was, so, but there was not more details about what's the case, what exactly was that the case, because it was such a crazy time. And regarding your second question, 2001, after homosexuality was removed from mental health disease, so you're not considered mentally disabled if you are homosexual, but they left something like if you're not self-confident homosexuality, homosexual, you are still considered as mentally ill, mentally sick. And then, but the issue is that if the therapist help you to with your self-identification and help you to know about your sexuality, no, most of doctors are trying to cure you. Like they're still doing conversion therapy. And a few years ago, there was one person sued sued a client doing clinic who did conversion therapy on him, and the case was he won the case, but still there are ongoing places like that, and moreover, like transgender is still considered as a disease, as disabled.
Maybe I interject with one question, because when we talked about the film selection as well, you said that one of the main actresses in the last film, Wave Like Cloud, is quite well known in China.
Yeah.
What is the life of the queer films, both your films, other films, in China itself? I mean, obviously there's censorship in the sense that you might not get a license to be screened, or you might not be able to go to the cinema. But then there's something like the Queer Film Festival that it is screening those films. Would mainstream audiences be aware of those films, especially if there's someone famous or well-known in them? Or where can people in China, both queer people but also maybe mainstream audiences, see and find those films?
At least from what I know, Wave Like Cloud still hasn't showed in China. I talked to the filmmaker, they submit to many festivals within China, but none of them accept it. And even there was one film festival in west of China, in Xining, considered to be the most progressive one, but they still also didn't accept. And I heard they rejected many other queer films. So and so this phenomenon about overseas students shot queer films, they submitted, none of them was accepted. So they would not say it is censorship, but it's obviously, a few years ago, also was at Shanghai International Film Festival trying to show Call Me By Your Name, and they already programmed the film, but at last minute they withdraw it from the program. So it's still hard, but definitely we will show it in our Queer Film Festival next year of this short movie. And for my own film, the Drum Tower has played the most silver in Queer Film Festival and also in a short film festival. But that was in 2019. COVID even changed and make it even more harsh for media censorship. But there are some platforms, online streaming platforms, which is quite accessible. And one is called Kasi Play. So they are streaming Chinese independent films, like old ones and also some new ones. And so they're focused on, almost all my previous films are on their platform. And their subscription fee is quite low, like €5 or something like that. And another platform called Gaga Ulala. It's a Taiwanese company that focuses on streaming Asian queer films. So this tool I would recommend. I know that they are both of them told me that they have big, not huge, but China is one of their main customer. Most is an important market for them. That even I think Galagagula was blocked by the Great Firewall. People had to access it with a VPN, but Kasi Play is still not blocked. It's a Singapore-based. To summary, that is a very little space for on-site. So online can be for the future, and is a main place where you can watch queer films beside the queer film festival.
You should also mention that Popo Fan was very successful in suing one of those platforms when they withdrew your films, right?
I sued the government.
You sued them officially and you won. And how does it go together? I'm just wondering, because in many places there's rules for cinema, but then it might not apply to online or not to a cafe as an exhibition space. Can you tell us about that as well?
So I sued them for banning my film Mama Rainbow. So the full film is about 80 minutes, but I put a half an hour version online for free for people to watch. So I heard many LGBT kids use this as a coming out material. They show it to their parents.
It's a documentary about moms of queer kids.
Yes. Until 2014, I found it was taken down from online totally. After got more than 1 million of views online and many interesting comments. So I was very mad about that. And then someone told me, "Hey, do you want to sue the government for banning the film?" And I said, "Yeah." But at that time, I just thought it's a performance art because the court would not even accept it. But they got me a really good lawyer. The lawyer was he found some tricks that you can apply. There is a system in China called information apply for information enclosure. So if you want to know, because Chinese government try to practice transparent, governance, and so this is one of their achievement. And so with that system, I sued the SARF, the State Administration of Film, Radio, and Television. The result was. As Andrea said, I won the case, but my film was still not back. And instead of that, I also got unfriendly visitors and so it's turned to be not pleasant. And more freaking thing is that the next year they had a new restriction against queer content online. So I can't say, was I success? Did I win? No, technically. But did I win? Yes, because at least I did that. And I don't regret. I became a stronger person because I didn't even know that I could sue the government. And also, I believe that those steps are all in the history as a part of the progress. And hopefully it will be better, but now it's just 2 steps forward, 1 step backward, and the progress is very important for us to observe and also be part of it.
Just looking at you again, if you have more questions. Then I have just a final question that it goes back to the first film. We talked about online spaces where a lot of the queer content can be found, or where queer Chinese people can access maybe on foreign platforms queer films, and how important is the festival for community? I mean, I've never been to the Beijing Queer Film Festival, but our friend Shitar, who was also in the film from Kashish Film Festival in Mumbai, I could visit, and it was the feeling of community and how vital the festival was to bring everyone together, to have a space where you can meet and celebrate queer art was so important. So I'm assuming it could be the same in Beijing. How important is it to have a festival like a physical space where people can come together and share an experience?
I also went to Kashish in Mumbai, the Queer Film Festival. There was very impressive, and but China and India are so different. It was a few years ago, being gay is still criminalized in India, but they could host that festival. It's sort of the opposite of our situation. LGBT is also not criminalized, but you're not doing a film festival is almost criminalized. My colleague was taken to the police for a few times. So it's we really value the physical space, especially after COVID. And we are so proud that actually every year, even when Outfest, like Frameline hosted online, we hosted it on site in person, because our festival usually in beginning of November every year. At that time, the restriction was okay, so we did that in person. But it just sucks that I could not fly back to China, so I remotely moderated some panel and get up at 5 o'clock to prepare for the Q&A. So but Goethe Institute really upgraded their facility for Zoom meeting, and so it looks very real when I opened entered the Zoom room and seeing people like some of them also my friends, familiar face were in the space, and some of them only meet each other once a year during the queer film festival, and we in the documentary we could not tell that the story. Many people met in our festival and like hook up or become couple, or some of them already get divorced. So we have so many stories like that, because it is a place where people meet each other, and many things can happen when that happens. Secondly, we have such a big cinephilia community in China, so they really some of them and we especially when we host Q&A with international filmmakers, because a few years ago there were like a lot of parody copies. People can watch the film, but they never know what does the filmmaker think. Or with those channels like our Queer Film Festival, this is such a physical space, also bridging the space between filmmakers and audience. I think my philosophy about filmmaking is to bridging different people, so that was very much fulfilled from no matter online or on-site spaces.
So maybe you should mention one of the people that we saw at the festival is Barbara Hammond. We will have one of her films in this retrospective as well, or in this film series, Nitrate Kisses. So we brought her to Beijing, obviously. Popo, thank you for just giving us an idea and a first glimpse of queer Chinese filmmaking and talking to us about the role of queer art in China. I would invite everyone to keep your eyes open. Popo Fan has, of course, a website where you can see his work. You can watch some of the films or short versions of the films online there, and keep your eyes open, because, as I said, you're working on your first feature-length fiction film, which will be produced here in Germany, and which I hope will see the light of day, I don't know, 2025?
26.
2026.
So a big plane.
So keep your eyes open. I hope we'll have it here at Filmhaus Nürnberg then as well.
My website is popofan.net, or you can also find me on Instagram, popofan. So everywhere. I got Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Snapchat, and Facebook.
He can do everything, and he's an amazing cook as well. So thank you so much, Popo, for being here and for bringing us into this.